viewer actually recently reached out to us asking us to do a segment on something that's familiar and it's something that many families deal with. It's estrangement.
And this can be such a tricky situation to navigate. So we brought in a social worker and psychotherapist, Tiffany Lewis, to help us through it. Welcome to the show. Good to have you here.
Thank you. Okay, Tiffany, let's start with some basic definitions. If people aren't familiar, what exactly do you mean or think when it comes to the word estrangement? What is it?
So estrangement essentially is like a disconnect between an individual or individuals and their family. And this is like parent, child, sibling, extended family, whole family. And the purpose of estrangement is to essentially break like toxic family cycles, right? We're trying to get out of something that continues to exist. And when an individual chooses this, it's because like they emotionally want to create some distance in hopes that it like puts everything to rest. And I think also too, one thing to say about estrangement, it's not always negative. Like with the clients that I work with who are estranged from their families, they actually report greater mental health outcomes. They feel a lot more independence and autonomy. And so like that's the double-edged sword with it, right?
Okay, so let's give some examples. Like what typically makes someone want to distance themselves from a family member?
Yeah, there are so many reasons. So obviously this is a short list, but like untreated mental health, maybe there's addiction issues, abuse, trauma, neglect in the relationships. There's also interpersonal issues. So like just personality clashes, communication issues, maybe mismatched expectations. But the biggest one that exists, and I see it a lot in my own practice, is ideological. So we have our politics, we have our religion, we have our cultural issues. And I think for individuals who are choosing this to kind of get to the root issue and kind of let them remind themselves, like, this is why I'm doing this, can be incredibly validating.
It's interesting. We had a conversation about this on the show just yesterday about that tricky line of trying to figure out when you should call someone in and when you need to create distance. But if you are someone who has decided that you want to distance yourself, how should this be communicated to this family member, or does it have to be always communicated?
So again, tricky, right? So if we're thinking about somebody who's probably been in the throes of this before, like we're in the cycle, chances are that individual isn't going to say it again. So they just distance. But if there is somebody that wants to communicate this, I always say I statements are so effective because it's like what I need and it doesn't place blame on anybody. And so that might sound like I need to work on my own mental health. And so I'll be taking a step back from our relationship. And when I'm ready, I can reach out again.
All right. So Tiffany, you say there are different types of estrangement. Can you tell us about them?
Yeah, so there's the physical estrangement, which essentially is like we limit no contact, or we limit contact or there's no contact, or avoidance. And this looks like we're in the same space with everybody, but there's like no eye contact, we're pretending nobody exists. Then there's emotional, and so we're in the same space, but it's a very surface level kind of communication, right? There's no emotional connection, no intimacy. We're not sharing any details. We're not sharing anything. It's just really, really surface level.
Okay, so let's say somebody's watching and they find themselves in a strange situation, and I don't know on what side, but let's say this person wants to improve this and get rid of the estrangement. What should they do?
So I think first and foremost in all relationships, we need mutual respect and we need boundaries in all, even whether estranged or not. And typically what happens is an individual, when they choose estrangement, their boundaries haven't been enforced, they've been kind of pushed. And so in order for a relationship to get better, we need to have boundaries, because they also set an expectation of how we need things to go. And that could look like taking a break when conflict arises, spending only small amounts of time just to kind of maintain that relationship. I think also too, like communicating via phone call. Maybe we're not ready to see each other in person yet. It looks like communicating the boundary too, and that could sound something like, if we can't talk kindly to each other in this conversation, I'm gonna take a step back, and when we're both ready to rejoin respectfully, we can try this again.
What if you've done everything that you can and you want to still reach out to that family member and they just refuse to engage with you, and that's causing you trouble?
It's so hard because I think like on both sides, and I mean, I think a lot of families experience this. I know we experience this in my own family, and I think like the unfortunate part of it is it's just painful. And I think when it comes to healing or processing it, we have to recognize that there's so many complex emotions on both sides. So what that individual can do, what everybody can do, is go to therapy, right?
Work on yourself.
Work on yourself, whether that's individual and hopefully eventually you get back into a family therapy, but it's grieving. And it's okay to grieve that we have this relationship that feels this way and we don't have access to the person. And so maybe we do kind of have to sit there for a little bit and just process it through ourselves, and also focus on the healthy relationships you do have. Maybe we need to rebuild some of those.
So on this tip, like you talk about, it's important to manage expectation. What does that look like?
So expectations, and I love managing expectations because they're a belief that something's going to happen. It doesn't actually mean it's going to happen. But more specifically, like when we're managing an expectation with an individual that we want to reconnect with, we really have to consider what they've been through. So if we're thinking about like generationally, trauma, abuse, neglect, emotional stuntedness, like this has existed long before like our relationship fell apart. And so we really have to consider like, what can I expect from this person? Because I don't think I'll get the perfect relationship, but if I keep in mind what they're capable of, then maybe we can rebuild this. And so we really have to be careful with our expectations because if they're too high, it's gonna fail.
Yeah, manage those expectations.
Yeah.
All right, so what steps can we take to heal ourselves while dealing with an estranged relationship?
So again, I'm a big therapist, so like go to therapy. But I think also like one of the biggest things too is just recognizing that like this is the process that you're going through, right? Taking your time, going really, really slow, that's important. We don't want to rush anything. I think also too, like consider taking a step back. We also might have to unlearn our own unhealthy behaviors in our own relationships. And so like really kind of using the time to be reflective is key, I think, to healing some of that.
Okay, so let's turn a corner and both parties decide they do want to reconcile, thaw the estrangement. What are the steps to make sure that this is it's got its best chance at success?
Yes. So I think first and foremost, both parties ready to go, like we're on the same page, and we have been putting in work towards meaningful change. So it definitely should be voluntary. Again, family therapy, let's get into therapy and talk about it. My favorite thing to kind of work with my clients is active listening. It sounds so simple, but it isn't. When we practice active listening, this basically means like you listen to understand, not to respond.
And a lot of times it's echoing back. What I think you just said now, tell me if I'm right, right, is
What I heard was.
what I heard was,
like
and
no
then you echo it
defensiveness.
back. No defensive, no tone, no nothing, right?
Yep.
So let's talk about like, can estrangement, because of something extreme like abuse, can it ever, have you seen that ever be repaired and go on to have a healthy relationship?
This is such a good question because it's so complex. As a trauma therapist, I work specifically with this. The short answer is like sometimes, because it's again such a hot button. So this is only if that individual is committed to like long-term change, if they can take accountability, if they're in therapy, like actively doing the work. But to be honest, not all people are capable of change, and not all abusive cycles are capable of being broken. So it actually may be the healthiest thing for us to not engage in that relationship because it's life-saving, it's like self-affirming, and in order for us to heal, we actually do really have to break that cycle with that person.
Right. Great information, something really deep to think about. Tiffany, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Let's take a break, everybody. We'll be back right after this.
Hey, you, come a bit closer. We've got so many more must-see interviews, spicy debates, lifestyle tips, and pop culture moments. So subscribe to our channel by tapping the logo below and don't miss out.